You've made it through your first day in Football Manager 26, you've assessed the squad, picked a tactic, sorted your staff, and you've finally hit continue for the very first time. And now things start to get interesting. Your first week in FM26 is where the game really opens up. Suddenly, the inbox fills up, your staff start throwing reports at you, training sessions kick in, players start knocking on your door, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it can get pretty overwhelming pretty fast. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to expect during your first week and the key things you need to stay on top of, from scouting and training to team cohesion, dynamics, dealing with those early conversations that can make or break the dressing room. By the end of the week, you should feel completely settled into your club, have a clear idea of how your squad actually performs, and be fully prepared for that all-important first match. So let's get into it. This is your first week in Football Manager 26. And this is, if you hadn't already gathered from the intro, this is part of a longer playlist. We've already got first day and before that, like just a beginner's guide, setting the game up thing. So if you are jumping into this from here, you might want to watch those ones first. They're earlier in the playlist, but we're assuming you've done everything in those two. We've just hit continue. Let's continue. And this is the screen we're presented with off the back of our first continue. As you can see, the first thing it's doing is asking me to set my code of conduct. Feel free to fiddle with this to your heart's content. I have never yet been presented with a reason to not just ask your assistant manager to do it. So ask your assistant manager to do it unless you've got really strong opinions. And I'll level with you, season 1, club 1, you shouldn't have strong opinions on this stuff yet. If you find out that actually you end up with a red card problem, you can always tweak it for the next season, for example. We've also got our homegrown players update, which is useful to know if you are in any kind of worry about maybe not hitting registration limits for domestic football or international football. By and large, I'm not going to check it from here, though. It's the kind of thing that you can usually just check from your squad screen, especially if you use the lollujo squad view, which is now available on the Steam Workshop. And we have on there who's got homegrown status and who hasn't, which to me is a much easier way to do it. So where we are from the end of our first day, we've got a basic idea of a starting tactic involved. We have a friendly match that's coming up in a couple of matches' time, which I'm going to leave my assistant manager to do. If you really want to deep dive into the tactical stuff, by all means, manage your friendly matches. I've not got any interest in seeing this team play until Nottingham Forest away on the first day of the season. And that's where I'll start tweaking, because I don't really enjoy the process of friendlies, but you might. And I'm not telling you shouldn't. The whole process we're going through here is you deciding which parts of the game you enjoy and which parts you don't enjoy. In a similar vein, we've automated training, so we don't really need to get involved in training too much. You can check in on it, and if you think something's being done wrong, you can go in and change stuff. There's no reason why you can't go in and change stuff. But again, at this early stage, assuming this is your first playthrough, there's probably nothing to change. If you get a few weeks into the season and you're conceding loads and loads and loads of goals, then maybe you change some of the attacking training to defensive training. If you're struggling with fitness, maybe you add some fitness training in. Maybe you reduce the training workload. There's tweaks you can do as you go, but there's not a lot of that you need to do in your very first week. We are just going to jump back into training very quickly, because one thing I do want to do is just set up mentoring groups. It just helps with the mental development of your players. Again, it's another thing you can just ask your assistant manager to do. He set us up 3 little mentoring groups where you have a senior pro with a couple of younger players. You can do it manually if you want. I don't. So I don't. It's oh so very simple, boys and girls. Right, we are now at the point where we probably want to start thinking in terms of transfers. We've got £55 million to spend. We've also got a lot of wage budget available, a lot of scouting budget available as well. And the squad planner is going to give us an indication of where we're strong and where we're weak with the tactic that we've selected. So you can see how good we are in each position on this little table thing here, but also how much depth we have. And in fact, you can even filter this to show you the depth that you've got, what role you've got selected on there as well. But at a first glance, it seems to me that the biggest gap in our squad is at left back. We've only got 2.5 stars of ability there. Our depth isn't great. In fact, the depth across the back four in general isn't great. We have got one good left back in the shape of Rico Henry, but he's wanted by a couple of Saudi Arabian clubs, and they might well tempt him away from us. And at 28 years old, and with the call from Saudi Arabia potentially in the offing, I think shopping for a new left back is probably not the worst plan we could have. There's also an argument for doing the same thing at right back, although we have got a good youngster in the shape of Michael Coyote, who's got loads of potential. So we maybe don't want to bring someone in who gets in his way. We don't really have that. On the other side, Aaron Hickey is a little bit older as well. Okay, he's only 23. I thought he was older than that. How is Aaron Hickey only 23? It feels like he's been around forever. And these guys don't have a huge amount of potential. I guess he's not disastrous, but he's not really a defender either. I think a left back is not a bad shout. You could argue striker, maybe. We've got Thiago, who's almost certainly going to be our starting striker, but there's not a huge amount of strength in depth behind him. He's probably just as likely to play out wide as he is in the centre forward position. It really does start to become slim pickings once you go further back. So I'm thinking a left back who ideally might be a bit of a utility defender for us. If we could find a left back who can also play right back, or a left back who can also play centre back, that would be ideal for both a potential replacement for Henry if he goes, but also some solid backup for across the back four. And I think signing a utility defender might not be the worst plan, even if we do bring in a left back, if we're on the assumption that Henry's probably leaving. And then as a striker, I just think it's always a good idea to bring in a striker. But if it's someone who can play out wide as well, we don't really need wide players. We've got a lot of depth in the wide areas. But maybe a striker to properly compete with Thiago, again, not the worst plan. And do we want our main striker to be a target forward? Is that the kind of profile we're after? Or do we maybe want somebody who can offer us something a little bit different, maybe a pacey option up front? So now we've got a rough idea of what we want. We can go into our transfer room in. There are various ways to do this. We've got our scouting is all being handled by our chief scout and our director of football. So we will get scout reports start to come in. You can see we've already got some of them. These are just the scout reports that have already been done by our scouting team. And you can make this filtered according to players who may or may not want to play for you. You can filter this down by position. So we could look in here. Is there a left back that we like the look of? Harrison Burrows, as a Peterborough fan, Harrison Burrows is quite exciting. So he's not really the utility defender we were looking for, though, and he knows it. Look at that little grin on his face. What a lovely boy. But what about a striker? Is there maybe a striker that's already been scouted, a striker we're already aware of, who could come in and be a difference maker? Not really. So we're going to leave our scouts to carry on doing their thing. And then in the meantime, we are going to go down to transfer room in and ask our director of football for some specific types of player. So we need to know the kind of specific player that we're looking for. So again, if we go back to our tactic to remind ourselves what we're doing tactically, at left back, we want someone who's a wing back in possession and a full back out of possession. That's what we're doing on both sides. But up front, I think we want a different kind of striker. I don't think we want another target man. We don't want someone who's just a like for like replacement for Thiago. We want someone we can bring in if Thiago isn't working against a certain opponent. So we go back to transfer room in. And for the left back, we want someone who in possession can be a wing back, and then out of possession is a left back, full back. We want someone we bring in permanently for transfer. We want someone a little bit younger. Henry's 28. We want someone a little bit younger than him. And because we're not yet sure whether Henry's going to be leaving, I think we could probably go for maybe like a squad player with an even younger profile. I'm trying to make it show me Harrison Burrows. So we can set that as a set of requirements for a left back. And then for our striker, in possession, there we go, striker in possession, I think what we want is a poacher, completely different kind of striker, who out of possession is going to be a tracking centre forward. And again, we want someone who's good enough to be a regular starter, maybe up to 25 years old. We submit the requirements for those. And that then sends my director of football off to go and look for that kind of player. He won't necessarily be able to bring anybody back, but he might bring us somebody back. And then a lot of your first week is dealing with what pops up in your inbox. So we've hit continue and you can see we've got some more messages in. So we've now got another tutorial we could do. You should do. I've already done it, but it gives you an idea of how dynamics work. We're not going to do that in this video, but like I say, you should definitely do all of those introductions if you're new to the game. We've now got a loan offer in for Frank Onyeka, who is one of our better midfield players. If we go back and look at our squad depth again, where is squad depth on here? I've got it on here somewhere. These are supposed to make it quicker to... There you go, squad planner. So Onyeka, I mean, he's quite far down in all of our midfield positions. He's the 7th best there, 7th best there, 5th best there. I'm actually potentially not against letting him leave. I don't necessarily want to loan him out, but if Bournemouth are going to pay his entire salary and then a future fee, we'd be interested. So there is a mandatory future fee. So we'd end up getting like £17 million for him. If they're happy to pay his full salary, which I'm going to insist on, we've made that non-negotiable. If they're happy to pay his full salary, I'm not against him leaving. They're happy. They haven't changed any of the other values. We're going to accept that. We don't mind him leaving. We've also got a loan offer for one of our youngsters that we're just going to accept. You can delegate the stuff for the youngsters to a director of football or a youth development guy if you want to. I tend to prefer to be completely in control of all my transfers. Who is this guy? He's our young striker who clubs are making offers for. We don't really want to let him leave permanently. I'm not against him leaving on loan for some game time though. So does that's interesting. They're offering a buyback on that one. We don't really want to sell him though, but loaning him to Wimbledon for some game time. Again, I'm going to be a monster. I'm going to insist that they pay his full salary, which Wimbledon probably aren't going to be able to do, but it's early in the window. I think we can insist on that at this point. There you go. He's probably going to go on loan to Wimbledon for game time rather than being sold to Southampton with a buyback on there. And we've also got a young goalkeeper who there's some interest in. Again, we don't really want to sell him. They want to take him on loan though. And I think, again, I'm going to continue insisting that salaries are paid in full. As we get further into the window, if there's players we want to loan out that are still kind of stuck here, then we might let them go for less of a wage contribution. But it's the 8th of July. I'm going to insist on getting a full salary for them at this point. We've got nearly 2 months of transfer window left to find loans for them. We then have our training introduction, which again, I recommend that you do. Our set piece introduction, which I recommend that you do. And in fact, did we set up a set piece tactic in the previous episode? We didn't. This is definitely something we should have in our first week. So you go through the set piece creator. Again, in the early days, unless you've got really strong opinions, go with the staff preference. The staff kind of know what they're doing. That's what you've hired them for. I like a near post corner anyway. I prefer an in-swinger though. So again, we're going against our staff. We're going for an in-swinger. I like the idea of being balanced when we're defending. So we leave one or two players forward maybe. And again, a hybrid strategy. Rather than just zonal or man-to-man marking. I think we need to do a little of column A and a little of column B. I don't really like having players on the post, so we're going to have nobody. And then I want to counter-attack when we're defending corners rather than having everybody back defending the box. So we can add our set piece routine on. You can add multiples of these on. So that one has given us that near post in swinger. But we could add a far post in swinger if we wanted to. We could add a short corner option if we want to, and then you can also set the frequency that these corners take place. At the moment this thing is glitched, but if you close it and go back into it, you can see it has actually set them up how we want them. So more often we'll do a near post in swinger, slightly less often a far post in swinger, and occasionally we'll do a short corner. But you can set that up however you want to set it up. Same with free kicks, throws. You can go into this in as much or as little detail as you want. One other thing that I like to do is add in an attacking long throw as well. I think attacking long throws are fun. You can also set up your penalty takers if you so choose. And there's some decisions to make at the bottom there around penalty takers. And this is probably also a time to add in an additional tactic if you aren't quite sure how you want to play or you want multiple options. So at the moment, we've got this 4-5-1, 4-3-3 thing. If we want an alternate tactic, you can add alternate tactics in. You can have up to 3 loaded. So we might decide we also want a gegenpress that's a 4-2-3-1, a Football Manager meme that becomes a 4-2-2-2 out of possession. And we might decide we want that as well. And then you can switch between the two mid-match so you don't have to faff around setting both of them up. So just a few little background admin things while some of that early game stuff is doing what it's doing. Like your scouting is getting up and running, your training is getting up and running. We now need to meet the media. Again, I would recommend you do. I'm not, because I don't think it makes for a very interesting video, but you can attend the press conference and answer the questions as you see fit. Likewise, you're going to need to meet your players. You don't even get the option to back out of this one. So again, say the things that they want to hear if you want to keep them happy. If you want to shake things up, say things you don't think they want to hear. Do this according to, these are your own personal preferences. So yeah, we're just going to click a few options. Obviously, you'd read them and put a little bit more thought into it for yourself. We're still on that second day. There you go. We've now ticked over to the 10th. We're into the Thursday now. We're aiming to get through to the Monday, which gets us through our entire first week. We've had another offer for this young striker who's got potential. We are happy still for him to be loaned out if we get his full salary. You know the drill with this, full salary. Come on now, full salary. Everyone's just accepting my demands at the moment. He's another one. See, I'm just going to straight up decline them because no one's offered any contribution, and I can't be bothered 5 times to say no, we want all of his salary. I think we'll let them figure that out for themselves. We are starting to get some scout reports in. So this is off the back of those requirements that we've set up. So this should be the kind of player that we're potentially looking for. So here's a 23-year-old left back who meets the profile that we were looking for. So it's taken them 2 days, but we now have a potential left back that we can look to bring in. If we want to know more about him, we can now scout him. So we're going to scout him. And then we've also got a potential striker option in as well. So we're going to scout him. And we're starting to have some thoughts on the kind of players we might potentially want to bring in. That's another striker. So again, we'll scout him and start to get a little bit of a shopping list together. While this is going on, our scouts are doing more and more as well. So if we take that filter off, you can see that we are starting to get more and more players appear on our scout reports as well. And there's no rush. The transfer window doesn't close until September, the start of September. It's the 10th of July. It's my birthday, the 10th of July. Write that down so you can send me a card and a present when the time comes. But it's the 10th of July. There's no rush. You just don't need to rush yet. I accidentally cancelled this transfer, didn't I? When I was trying to reject the other loans, I got a little bit too clicky. So I will say to him, look, I'm sorry. I actually made a mistake there. Is there an option for that? There isn't. I misclicked. There you go. What will it take you to commit? My heart's set on leaving. Okay, then. I'll let you go if they offer a reasonable amount. And a reasonable amount, yeah, if they offer that, that's more than the offer from before. It doesn't need to be that much. That was just me getting a little bit clicky. Be wary of being a little bit clicky, boys and girls. But it looks like we are getting some more offers in. Right, our first friendly is coming. So this is where you can pick your team for your friendly. You can manage that yourself, or you can leave your assistant manager to manage that for you. We've now had an offer for, see, his potential isn't great. 3.5 stars of potential at 19. I think I'm probably going to accept that. I don't imagine I'm ever going to use him. We've had an offer to take this kid on loan, which again, we know the drill. We want all of the money at this stage, and we'll potentially wiggle on that as the window goes on. But at the moment, everyone seems happy to meet my terms. And now we've actually, through a misclick, ended up with some much better deals for this guy. I am still going to force this, but we've now been offered actually much more money. 13 million and 12 million is much more money than we were offered before. And then we've also got this offer, which is also more. So there you go. Forget what I said about don't misclick. Sometimes misclick. Maybe sometimes negotiate a bit more, because we've been able to get some better deals there by accidentally playing hardball. Right, there's another introduction you should do that we're not going to do. And now we are closing in on the end of our first week. And I think this is actually probably as much as we need to go through in this video. We've got another striker recommendation, so we're going to get him scouted as well. We're continually adding to our scout reports, but the most of the first couple of weeks in the job is going to be this. It's going to be starting to build up a profile of players that we want. We don't want to rush out and buy somebody straight away. Southampton really want to buy him permanently. We really don't want to sell him. But until there's someone that really does tickle my fancy that appears on these scout reports, we're not rushing into anything. We've got a lot of money to spend, but there's no rush. There's plenty of window left. We've been in the job like 5 days. We are building up scout reports. I am very tempted by him, but he's not good enough to come in and start 20 straight away. And at 23, that probably means he's not the one for us. But it's just repeating the process that you've already seen over and over and over again. Obviously, at this point, you could tweak with your tactics, tweak by managing the matches. There's more detail you could go into, but if you're just interested in getting transfers done and see, that's a potential problem. We might need a goalkeeper. Have we got a backup goalkeeper, or do we now need to prioritize a backup goalkeeper? No, hold on. I'm trying to get to the squad planner. Where's the squad planner? It's there, isn't it? Backup goalkeeper. He's actually not too bad. He's fine. We'll be fine with him. But yeah, it's just a lot of this. And until we start getting to the point where we identify some targets, and that's probably where we will pick things up in a future video. And I think at this point, rather than just going through day by day, step by step, and showing you absolutely everything, which if you want to see absolutely everything, I stream like 2 or 3 times a week on my second channel, lollujo Live, and on Twitch at lollujo. So if you want to see absolutely everything for like seasons at a time, come and watch the streams, ask any questions you've got over there. But I think for these videos, for this tutorial series, it makes sense to deep dive on certain areas now. So let me know down in the comments the things you would like to see more on. I'm happy to go deep on recruitment. I can show you this full transfer window with Brentford if that's what you want to see. We could go deep on tactics. I could even try and learn training. I probably won't enjoy it, but I could show you in more detail when I do tweak training. So let me know what you want to see, and you can kind of shape how these tutorials go over the first couple of weeks of FM26. But for now, we'll wrap this video up here. If you have enjoyed it or you found it helpful, please leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.